This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. Chet, are you good?
I'm good.
Hopefully I don't mess things up. We didn't get to meet in advance, so hopefully we can get through this. So the first thing on our agenda is the statement regarding virtual meetings. Chet, can you handle that?
I certainly can. I'm putting it on the screen now. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the opening statement for electronic meetings. In light of the 2020 COVID-19 virus and current guidance regarding physical distancing to reduce the potential for spread, meetings of the Richmond Regional Planning District Commissions have transitioned to a virtual format. Regional public bodies were granted authority to conduct meetings electronically pursuant to the provisions of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3708.2 and related legislation approved by the General Assembly of Virginia during the period of the governor's state of emergency declaration for COVID-19. While we do not know the exact duration of the current practice of electronic meetings, we will continue to function in this manner until such time as it is deemed appropriate to return to in-person meetings. Staff provided notice of this meeting and the means by which we are virtually gathered to members of the public on September 1st, 2020 through electronic posting on the Plan RVA website and email distribution of notice to members, alternates, and known interested parties, including the media. This meeting will be recorded. Recordings of the meeting and materials will be posted on the Plan RVA website within 48 hours of this meeting. Any members of the public participating as an observer during the meeting today may submit comments or questions at any time during the meeting via email at rrtpoinput@planrva.org or by using the online chat functions of the meeting platform. Those individuals who are observing by phone may be called upon to share questions or comments. This meeting agenda includes 2 opportunities for members of the public to address this body. All comments and questions submitted during the meeting will be reviewed following the meeting, and to the extent practical, responses will be provided or posted on the Plan RVA website. We ask that everyone identify themselves first when speaking so we can more accurately record the activities of the meeting. All lines can be muted at any time to minimize additional noise and feedback. You may unmute your line at any time to request acknowledgement from the chair. Staff will be monitoring the chat functions throughout the meeting to assure we do not overlook anyone wishing to participate as appropriate in the discussion. Does anyone have any questions regarding the process for assuring effective facilitation of this meeting or for how members of the public may participate? I will now ask our clerk to certify we have followed the approved procedures for appropriate notice of this meeting and the means by which we are convening.
Good morning. This is Nicole Mueller, and I certify that we have followed the approved procedures.
Please indicate your presence by saying aye when your name is called during a roll call. Anyone who wishes to identify themselves following the roll call of members will be invited to do so.
I will now be taking roll call for attendance. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Faulkner. City of Richmond, Ms. Clark. Let's see, I think. There you are. Good morning. Mr. Bridewell.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Kilduff. Hanover County, Mr. Vidunas.
Here.
Mr. Flagg. Henrico County, Ms. Meidler.
Aye.
Mr. Yor. New Kent County, Ms. Leduc.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Powhatan County, Mr. Pompey.
Here.
Mr. Chardine. Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos.
Aye. Here. Sorry.
Mr. Tucker. Capital Region Airport Commission, Mr. Rutledge. GRTC Transit System, Ms. Torres.
Here.
Ms. Del Ross.
Here.
Richmond Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Ms. Simmons. Plan RVA, Mr. Parsons.
Here?
Mr. Ariel. Right Finders, Ms. Tisdale. Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Here.
Mr. Sparks. VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
And Mr. Herman.
Here.
That concludes the roll call for attendance, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the TAC meeting agenda. There is an action request on that. Does anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda? Not seeing or hearing anything. Ms. Mueller, could you take roll call on the agenda approval?
Madam Chair, could we get a motion?
Oh, I guess we do need a motion. Sorry. Can someone motion?
Sharon Smidler, so moved.
Thank you.
Liz McAdory, second.
I think that it was Sharon Smidler with the motion and Liz McAdory with the second. Ms. Mueller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee will now be voting on item number 1, approval of today's meeting agenda. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Vidunas.
Aye.
Henrico County, Ms. Smidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Ms. Leduc.
Aye.
Powhatan County, Mr. Pompey.
Aye.
Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos.
Aye.
GRTC, Ms. Torres.
Aye.
Right Finders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Aye.
And VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
That concludes the roll call for item number 1, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. The item number 2 is approval of the August 11th TAC meeting minutes, and those start in your packet on page 2. Were there any amendments or questions about the minutes? If not, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
This
Barb
is Liz.
Smith.
Do I have a second for approval of the minutes?
Liz McAdory, the second.
So I have Barb Smith with a motion for approval and Liz McAdory for a second. Ms. Mueller, if you could call roll call.
Yes, thank you. The committee will now be voting on item number 2, approval of the August 11th meeting minutes. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Vidunas.
Aye.
Henrico County, Ms. Smidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Ms. Leduc.
Aye.
Powhatan County, Mr. Pompey.
Aye.
Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos.
Aye.
GRTC, Ms. Torres.
Aye.
Right Finders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Aye.
And VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
That concludes the roll call for item number 2.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Item number 3 on the agenda is our public comment period for any items on the September 8th agenda. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment? Or Mr. Parsons, was there any comments that were received or anything in the chat?
I am not aware of any comments received. Ms. Mueller, did you notice anything?
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to item number 4, TAC Chairman's Report. And I apologize if I am completely off. I too just dropped a few kids off at school. I feel like maybe next year we should skip first day of school, but hopefully it won't be as chaotic next year. I did have one actual item to share. On September 29th at 10:30, we are having the ribbon cutting naming of the Ashland to Petersburg Trail. It's going to be here in the town of Ashland at the trailhead, and we'll be parking at the Carter Park pool parking lot. And I don't know if the governor's coming. I know several of his staff members, and hopefully some legislators will be here, and hopefully some people from VDOT. So that's the 29th at 10:30. There's an invitation out there. Maybe we can get that out to everyone. That's all I have. The next item, number 5, is the TPO update. Mr. Parsons, it looks like you have a few things to go over with us.
Yes, thank you. Wanted to just give an update on current work efforts to start. The long-range plan is chugging along, obviously in a different type of format than we had originally intended, but we are still moving through both our advisory committee and public review for feedback and suggestions on priorities. We had a priority survey that was out that was closed on August 15th, and we had over 7,000 views and 500 responses. So we're very pleased with that as our first effort in the survey. We launched a second survey. I believe it was on the, I don't know, sometime the week of the 17th, about vision and goals. And this was through the MetroQuest platform. Hopefully everyone has seen that and has been able to share it. We're hoping for similar participation and looking forward to being informed by the public about vision and goals for the preferences for Connect RVA 2045. If you need a link to that or more information on the current live survey, please let me know, and we'll be happy to send that your way. The Greater RVA Transit Vision Plan was presented to the policy board last week and approved. So we're very excited about that, and there is a companion story map that is available. We'd be happy to hook you up with that link and any background information you might have, but that's ready to go if you wanted to share it with your constituents. As Nora mentioned, the trolley line trail study is moving forward, and the companion with the Ashland to Petersburg Trail, the northern section, including the Ashland trolley line, is getting ready to have the ribbon cutting on September 29th. So we're excited about that, and these efforts are continuing to move forward. I will say right now, one of the very exciting things we've got, especially given all of the quarantine and work at home conditions, is that the Virginia chapter of the ASLA, the American Society of Landscape Architects, and Virginia Tech is going to be working with us to develop renderings and visioning documents about what the Ashland trolley line might look like when it's completed. So we're excited as we move through that and continue to work with that group. The bike ped plan is continuing in its development, and we're excited about being able to complete the plan and include it as one of the chapters, and a lot of the background included in our long range plan. So that's moving forward, being led by Barb Jaycox and Phil Riggin. And we have a number of work groups that are continuing to meet, active transportation, Vision Zero, and others. So that's exciting to continue that momentum. Smart Scale Round 4, everything was submitted both on a regional scale and local, and we're looking for project prioritization from the CTB. I believe it's still first of the year, January of 2021. And I'm sure Liz or Tiffany could provide us some information about that when they give their reports later on in the meeting. Finally, the American Planning Association Virginia chapter, this has been shared before, but it is now going to be a virtual conference during the week of October 12th. Richmond will get another shot at hosting in person for 2022. So we didn't lose that opportunity, and we're excited about what's happening there. And I know that Barb Jaycox is on the planning committee for the conference. So if you have any other questions about that, if anybody needs continuing education, please reach out to Barb and she can give you more information on that conference opportunity. The other things that I had in my update were public comments. So we were a little bit confused. We had received a sizable amount of public comments on the Ashland to Petersburg Trail. I'd say over 20. So that was what we weren't clear. We thought those were for the TAC and the policy board, but actually those were directed to the Cbta. I learned after the fact. So we were not able to share that with the authority members at our meeting on August 27th, but have sent them last week so that the authority is aware of the public comments. Most of the public comments were in favor, overwhelmingly, of the Ashland Petersburg Trail. So if we don't have those, Ms. Mueller, I'm not sure. I don't remember if we posted those or not, but we will after the meeting if people don't have access to those comments. But that record is kept and will be kept as part of our records on the Ashland to Petersburg Trail for all of our boards and committees. And then finally, Cbta update. We are moving forward now after the organizational meeting to establish the TAC, the technical committee for the Cbta, as well as the finance committee. The finance committee has a meeting date of September 18th, which is next Friday. And the TAC will hopefully have a meeting date probably by the end of today or tomorrow. So I'm going to be reaching out to most of you to get best dates and times for the TAC to meet. And we are moving forward with all of the other things that were set out on the 27th, like the establishment of EIN and all of the bookkeeping and bank accounting information and all those kinds of things. But we're primarily going to be working through the TAC and the finance committee as we look towards a second authority meeting, probably the first week or two in October. And I'd be happy to take any questions on that, Madam Chair, if there are any now or later in the meeting.
Did anyone have any questions? Mr. Parsons, it sounds like you guys have been extremely busy. Thank you for the wonderful update. It's nice to get those updates.
Absolutely. And I do want to raise, sorry to interrupt, I wanted to raise everybody's attention to the chat. Nicole has shared a link to the public comments on the Ashland Petersburg Trail, if anybody wanted to see those. So those are on our website.
And I saw the question from Ron. The announcement did include the naming of the trail. It didn't state the name, but it did say that that was part of the ceremony, was the naming of the trail. The next item on the agenda is the prioritization of VTrans midterm needs and update. And Mr. Wickman's going to be with us again. I think, is he here?
Good morning. Good morning, Nora, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Am I coming through all right with my sound?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Chris.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Perfect. All right. Well, Chet, I'll have you advance the slides as I work through. So thanks for having me today. My name is Chris Wishman. I'm here with just a brief presentation on what we've been doing with VTrans. I know we worked really closely with you all back in 2019 to work through the midterm needs assessment. And in 2020, while we've been, I guess, less in touch with you all, we've been working behind the scenes to advance the prioritization of those midterm needs. So that's what I really want to provide an update on today, and then the opportunities that we're going to be providing here in the coming months to engage on this process. So next slide, Chet. So briefly, I'll just give a little bit of background. I know most everyone on the call has been involved with the update of VTrans, but I know some folks may be less familiar, so I will give just a brief background and then get into the sort of the context and significance of the prioritization, what it's going to be used for, and then a really high-level overview of the steps that we're working through to do the prioritization, and then finally end with some of the opportunities we're going to have to engage with stakeholders and then the public on the results of this process. Next slide. So the backdrop of the prioritization is really the midterm needs themselves. So we were with you all this time last year. I guess it would have been about August of 2019. We got together and we circled around the maps and looked at some of the performance measures that were driving our process to establish midterm needs. Those needs went through public outreach last fall, and then were eventually taken to the CTB in final form in January of 2020, where they accepted those needs for the purpose of using them as a screening criteria for the Smart Scale Round 4. At that time, the CTB also directed our team to develop a process to prioritize the needs, and that's essentially what we're working through now. Next slide. So in terms of what we're talking about with needs, one thing I guess to keep in mind is needs. The needs are really problem identification, not necessarily a solution or recommendation or a project. And we're looking at needs over two distinct planning horizons. So the midterm needs that I'll be talking about today are really the needs that we see sort of just outside the current 6-year improvement program cycle. So it would be needs for near-term solutions identified through an assessment of problems on the ground in the existing condition or today. These serve a variety of purposes. So the main one that you all are familiar with is to be used as a screening criteria for Smart Scale. So for Smart Scale, a project has to be eligible, ready, and it must meet a VTrans need in order to sort of advance into that funding process. VDOT is also using the VTrans midterm needs as a criteria when evaluating revenue sharing projects. And then the third bullet here under purpose for midterm needs is sort of a new concept that gets into the significance, I guess, of the exercise that we're doing. And this is something the CTB has been developing conceptually, and that's the multimodal project study or project development pipeline. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Into next year, we'll be looking at a little bit further out and looking at the long-term needs. So these are things that are a little less clear to us today and may be sort of guided by trends that we're seeing in technology or financial trend, revenue trends. And the purpose of the exercise we'll go through starting next year will be to evaluate the long-term needs of the system and the program, and then likely develop some recommendations around policy for those. Next slide. So in terms of the context and significance, what's the prioritization going to be used for? So the CTB has received 2 presentations, one in May and then one in July, from Deputy Secretary Donahue on this concept to have a project development or project planning pipeline. So the idea would be that we take the great big set of needs that have been established through VTrans and sort of reevaluate those needs and try to identify what's the top priorities statewide, top priorities within each district, and then use those or I guess cater our project development and planning activities to those needs. So the idea would be sort of within VDOT and DRPT to align studies that are being done with the highest level need. But then also the second bullet here would be to provide those as a resource in a similar way to what we did with the midterm needs, make the data readily available to inform local or regional planning processes as well. Next slide. So what is this project study pipeline? So the idea that's being discuss now would be the prioritized midterm needs would be used to identify locations for further evaluation. So this would be things like, where should we do our interchange modification report studies? Where should we do the next big interstate, the I-64 study, I-95 study, I-81 study? Where should we be looking next for those? And then also to develop solutions out of those studies and inform, what projects we're actually funding through the various funding programs. So what we're working on now is really the first step in this, which is to provide a prioritized set of needs to then work through this pipeline process. I would say that looking at or maybe listening to the presentation that was given in May and June would give you a little bit more in the details on what's being discussed here. But for the main part, how does it impact folks on the TAC committee? It is a little bit of sort of inside baseball to VDOT and DRPT and how studies may be funded in the future. So for you all, it isn't expected to impact anything that you can apply for smart scale or something like that. The highest priority needs won't get bonus points or anything like that. It's really being used within this framework of the project study pipeline. Next slide. So in terms of our steps, the first step that we have worked through is to define the geographies that we're going to study. So those of you who are familiar with what we did last year are familiar with the terms corridors of statewide significance, regional networks, and UDAs. So this prioritization will really take place at 2 geographies. So for the corridor of statewide significance needs and then any safety needs that are on corridors of statewide significance, that prioritization of those segments will be done at the statewide level. So this is comparing segments of 64 in Richmond to I-81 to I-66, comparing these all around the state to one another. Similar in concept to what's done with the statewide high priority pot within Smart Scale. And then for the regional networks, safety needs not on corridors of statewide significance, and then the UDAs and IEDA needs, those will be evaluated within a district comparison or district prioritization. Again, similar in concept to what's done with Smart Scale. Next slide. So our next step, once we've defined our geographies and what's going to be compared to what, we actually have gone in and looked at the individual segments and brought in, additional data to help, parse the differences between one need and another. So if you all remember what we did last year, it was really set a threshold and say, for congestion or safety or reliability, above this threshold is a need, below it is not a need. But what we're doing now is sort of looking at all those that were above that threshold and then bringing back in the original data. So for congestion, we're looking again at the travel time index or other measures and saying, okay, within this universe of needs, what's the most severe congestion need? And then as a second criteria, thinking about sort of the magnitude of that need. So how many people, how many users of the system are being affected by that congestion or safety problem. So essentially, we're sorting the deck of each category of needs with a little bit finer tooth comb in this step. So this is prioritization within the needs categories. And then Chet, next slide. And the next thing we're doing is taking that, individually within each need category, congestion, reliability, safety, et cetera, and then sort of weighing and aggregating those across the categories. So sort of stacking all the needs on top of each other and, figuring out which one is the biggest need. So we're also, as part of this, considering different ways of weighing or applying templates for weighting. So similar, I guess, in concept to Smart Scale with the area types. We'll be coming out with some options on how the prioritization across categories, the weighting should be structured. And that's part of what I'll go into with next steps and the feedback that we're hoping to receive. We want to go out with some initial results of different options of weighing and aggregating within this step, and then, you know, kind of discussing within each district or at the statewide level which template makes the most sense to apply based on, you know, how things are looking. Is it reasonable to what was expected, and that sort of thing. So I'll talk about that in some of my later slides. Next slide, Chet. And then the final piece of this, once we've, for any given segment, we've prioritized within each category, we've aggregated that all together, and we kind of have an idea of what's rising to the top. It was requested from the CTB that we sort of bring some other things in. So one thing would be, is there a bridge in need of repair, or a pavement that's really in need of repair along that segment? So that wasn't part of the state of good repair wasn't part of our initial method for midterm needs, but it was requested that we add in some, almost like bonus points here to adjust for influencing factors for state of good repair. And then also for vulnerability, we've done an assessment of the state's the entire state system and vulnerability for inland and riverine flooding, storm surge, and sea level rise. So this final step is really just to make slight adjustments to the result to account for these other, I guess, events in the case of vulnerability, but then also state of good repair. So we'll be providing or asking for some feedback on how those are used as well as part of stakeholder engagement. So this is the final slide on this set. So what we want to do here is have an iterative process. So if you all remember when we came out in August, we didn't have, or August of 2019, we didn't have the final answer. We sort of had our first look at the answer, and then requested your feedback and made changes prior to coming out with the final midterm needs. So we see this process being very similar in approach, although we don't have the benefit of sort of gathering around the table with you all. We are, next slide, Chet. We are looking at ways to sort of do a workshop, but do it virtually. So this is something that you all may have received invitations for the VTrans virtual workshops that were scheduled for early September. We are developing some tools with our website to allow sort of like an extension to the Interact VTrans tool to allow for some mapping and interactive capabilities within the website. And we weren't quite ready to bring that out at the early September timeframe, but it's looking like late September, early October, we will host our VTrans 2020 virtual workshops to gather feedback on sort of the initial results of this process. So be on the lookout for those revised invitations. And from there into, I guess, September and October, we'll continue to receive feedback through both the online tool, and then in October with the fall transportation meetings, hopefully receive some input from the public as well, depending on what form those fall meetings take. We'll work through the feedback and make any additional revisions that are needed. And then the timeline for this product is really to go to the CTB at their December meeting to request action on the prioritization. And then likely at that time, they will have some conversation around what this project development pipeline looks like. Next slide. So the last two slides are really just sort of housekeeping. So this is the map we use to show who the designated points of contact are across the state within our team, the VTrans team. So for Richmond District, RRTPO, I'm your designated contact. And if you want to go to the next slide, Chet. If you all have any questions about what we're doing, I know I kind of worked through things quickly today. You can give me a call or send me an email. And our website, we try to keep up to date with information as we work through it. And then, as I mentioned before, be on the lookout for the revised invitations to the workshops. your feedback will be critical to us, working through the steps that I outlined in the presentation today. So that's all I had, Chet, and I'm happy to answer any questions today, or feel free to follow up after today with any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wishman. Does anyone have any questions or comments now? And we look forward to the public input process. Is Chet raising his hand, I think?
I do have a question. Chris, how, with everything going on with regional authorities right now, how dynamic is the priority process? If the Cbta develops its own priorities in the spring, will there be an opportunity to work those in, or is it going to be more of a annual, biannual cycle kind of thing?
So, Chet, with your priorities, is that I guess one thing to clarify would be that we're prioritizing problems, I guess you could say, not necessarily solutions. So I think there is definitely an opportunity as we move into the next phase of this, which would be the recommendations, would be to sort of where the projects in each area of the state align with the needs, to work those into whatever, I guess, recommendations come out of the statewide plan. And to this point, with the needs assessment, it's been a very data-driven process, but with the projects, obviously the expertise on solutions is at the regional, local level. So I would expect that going into next year, when we're doing solutions and recommendations, that opportunity would definitely be available.
Okay, that sounds good. So the timing sounds right, that these could all be melded together once you get to the point where you're looking at solutions. Okay.
Yep.
Did anyone else
no other
have
questions?
any questions? Sorry. Were there any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wishman. I appreciate that. Good hearing from you.
All right. Thank you, Nora. I do have to drop off, so if anyone does have any questions after, just feel free to contact me.
Okay. That's great. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
The next item on our agenda, Mr. Wishing is going to go over the FY22 to 27 RSTP and Cmax schedule. Seems like we just finished last year's, and we're going to start all over again.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of TAC. As Ms. Amos just mentioned, we are getting ready to start a month after we've just concluded the last round. So the goal this year is to get back on the normal schedule. Hopefully with COVID, we'll have a better sense of the financials going into this cycle. And so the goal would be to get our allocations completed by April, following our normal practice. Basically what that's going to entail, the application period is going to be bumped back slightly. Normally we'd be starting about now for the applications. Since we just finished, what we've done is decided to push it back to October 1st. So it's just going to be the month of October only, so October 1st to October 30th. And then we'll come back to TAC in February and March with the existing and new projects, and then final allocations in April. So back to our normal schedule. Couple changes for this year that everyone should be aware of. We are looking to build more on what we did last year with the online application. We tried out streamlining the Rstp Cmax for bike ped, where it was combined under one application. So we're continuing with that process to try and select both sources of funding, and then just fill out one set of information for scoring for project types. So again, just trying to streamline it, make it a little easier for you. The other big change, and this one is more of a guidance rather than a change to the program, we are creating a flyer or a handout that goes over all of the suggested supplemental material for different items. Basically, we got a lot of questions last cycle about, well, what do I need to submit for detailed cost estimate, or what do I need to submit for crash analysis? So we're just putting together a table that shows exactly what sort of items would cover that. You don't have to submit those, they're just recommendations, but we're providing a little more guidance up front this time. So that's really it. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise it should be pretty pain-free to get this started.
Thank you, Miles. Do you mind giving us an update on the TPO action from our recommendation for RSTP and Cmax from last month?
Sure. So the policy board received tax recommendation. Staff, as most of you are probably aware, staff did not agree with the full recommendation. We agreed with the allocations and the new project selections, but staff did not agree with the prioritizing of other projects from the alternative approach. And the policy board voted to not prioritize those projects. So it's going to come in with a blank slate this cycle. Every project has to compete on its merits and get rescored.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the upcoming process for Miles? Thank you for that. Look forward to working on it coming up soon. The next item, Mr. Bushing is going to continue on with the Smart Scale Round 4 local project endorsements. And that starts on page 17 of your agenda package.
Sure. Thank you again. So the application cycle for round 4 closed on August 17th, as I'm sure you're all aware. The MPO is required to endorse certain applications. So any application on a corridor of statewide significance, and then the public transit agencies require endorsements for their applications, and then all the rest if they're not consistent with our long-range plan. So staff requested all of the projects and a summary by August 21st. We didn't receive all of them, but we were able to get from VDOT project titles and some basic information. So we've put together a table attached to the staff report, which goes through each application and our review for consistency with the long-range plan, as well as location on that corridor of statewide significance. And this year, in the past, we've prepared individual resolutions for each project. What we thought we could do this year was just have one resolution, which basically, whereas it's required in these situations, here's all the projects that we're supporting the application for, and then everything else we're deeming to be consistent with the long-range plan. One change on this that I would recommend that TAC consider would be adding all the GRTC projects. I think it is still required. The language in the guidance is changed from previous years. So in the past, it's always said by the relevant regional entity. This year it said by the relevant regional entity, and then had a little asterisk that said if it's in the MPO area, it requires an MPO resolution. Staff did not initially include GRTC in here, but to be safe, I think we should go ahead and add GRTC to the resolution. So that would be one recommended change, but otherwise, this is staff's initial analysis of projects that are not consistent or are located on that corridor of statewide significance. What I'd ask you all to do right now, if you haven't already, is take a brief look at the attachment to this item and see what your projects were listed and make sure that your local projects are all included. We can obviously add anything that you feel needs to be added to be safe. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we have any questions? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Diana. Could you just, I guess chat rather, could you just scroll down so I can see the Richmond's list? Yeah, okay.
This is Joe Vidunas.
Go ahead, Joe.
Is there any reason, Miles, that we wouldn't include all of the applications, regardless of whether or not they were quote unquote required and not required?
There's not. Staff initially considered that approach and just put it kind of a blanket. We're supporting all of these applications, and that way we're covering the bases. We thought to go through and actually try and make the initial assessment But if TAC prefers, we could just endorse all the applications within the region.
I'm fine with your approach. Perfectly fine. I'm a nervous Nelly sometimes when it comes to this, and my concern is that maybe staff's interpretation of which ones require endorsement and which ones don't may differ. So have these been vetted with VDOT all the projects been vetted with VDOT to say, yeah, these are just the ones that we need an endorsement for?
No, they haven't. What we could do is after tax review, we can take it back with Liz and work on that and make sure we've included everything. And if needed, add anything additional for the policy board. If that would make TAC feel better, I think we can do that.
This is Liz. Can I have a comment real quick?
Make me feel better.
This is Liz with
Go ahead,
VDOT.
Liz.
I just want to add, thank you. I think I kind of agree with Joe, even though we can do that vetting process. I think that's a great idea, Miles, just rather to be safe than sorry. I think it would be great to list all of the projects on the endorsement or on the resolution.
Thank you, Liz. Do we have any other comments? Questions? We don't have any other comments, and Miles, hopefully I get this right. There's a resolution that we would that's on page 18 of our packet to recommend to TPO, but in addition to that, we're including the additional projects plus the GRTC projects. Is that correct, Miles? Is that what you need from us?
Yeah, so it would be the resolution as written, but instead of this list, it would just be every single project that was submitted in the MPO study area.
And that includes the GRTC projects?
Correct.
Okay. If there's no other comments or questions, do I have a motion for approval of this resolution as amended?
This is Joe Vidunas. I'd move for approval as amended.
Thank you, Joe.
Barb Smith, second.
So I have Joe Vidunas with the motion for approval of the resolution as attached but to include all of the regional projects, and a second by Barb Smith. Ms. Mueller, if you could take a roll call vote for us, please.
Yes, ma'am. The committee will now be voting on item number 8, Smart Scale Round 4, local project endorsements. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Vidunas.
Sorry, finding the mic. Yes.
Thank you. Henrico County, Ms. Meidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Ms. Leduc.
Aye.
Powhatan County, Mr. Pompey.
Aye.
Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos.
Aye.
GRTC, Ms. Torres.
Aye.
Right Finders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Aye. Sorry.
VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes roll call for item number 8.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. We're going to move on to item number 9. I'm excited to hear about the Complete Streets Guidance and Toolbox update from Ms. J. Cox. Go ahead.
Actually, Madam Chair, I hate to say it, we do not have a presentation on that today. It's still in the works. We have to bring it back to you soon.
Okay, I'm sorry. You may have sent that email and I missed it. I apologize. So then we're moving on then to item number 10, which is transportation agency updates. Ms. McAdory, do you have an update for us?
I do, yes. Good morning, everyone. So CTB meeting update. There was no August workshop, but there was an August meeting. It was solely for working on a master agreement for tolling in Hampton Roads Express Lanes. So it didn't, that was the only item on the agenda. There is going to be September meetings. More than likely will be virtual. That's not been determined yet. It'll be September 15th. The workshop is at 10 a.m. September 16th, the action meeting is at 9 a.m. Everybody knows, I'm pretty sure, Smart Scale, we're in. 44, Richmond District had 78 applications, 44 of which were within the TPO boundary. That's a pretty good number. Validation is underway. We're working hard. We're expecting completion in December of this year, and then later in January, CTB would see those and make recommendations for funding. We would see that shortly thereafter. There's been no update to the SIP development. We're still anticipating a potential update toward the end of this calendar year. And again, once we know more, we'll provide that information. Similarly, with the interstate studies, I-95, there's been no updates yet. 64, we did have public involvement that ended August 14th. And I can't remember the exact number, but it was well into the 500 maybe number of comments received. I'll try to get that back. It's astonishing how many more comments we're getting nowadays with the virtual involvement. I-295 corridor studies underway. Operations data collection is complete. They're working on developing operations recommendations. And then similar to the 95 and 64 studies, we'll take those to the CTB and then take the capital improvements at a later date. The schedule still isn't ironed out for all of that. I'll provide that once we have it. There are no public hearings, but there is a willingness for intersection improvements at 8 intersections in Chesterfield. And then I think there were 3 in Henrico. And it's actually, Chad, if you want to scroll to the bottom, I just listed them real quick. They're all within our MPO area. So if you are interested in a public hearing, you can contact your VDOT residency office. If you're not sure how to do that, you can contact me and I'll get you there. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Ms. McAdory. Ms. Dubinsky, did you have an update for us from DRPT?
Yes, I do. And I'll just do a quick shout out to all of us parents. My daughter started kindergarten this morning and she is my new office mate. So if you happen to hear random yelling, that will be her yelling at her iPad. So nothing new in 2020, right? For my September update, I have a few items for everyone related to our 6-year improvement program. DRPT is preparing action items to add funding to the current FY20 SIP for consideration at the CTB meeting next week. The following items that we're recommending for addition include transit operating assistance for the second quarter. This will be at the same level as we did it for the first quarter. Commuter assistance operating for second quarter, same as the first quarter levels. And then all of our 5310 human service agency capital assistance. Right now, in terms of where we are with an FY21 SIP, we are still reevaluating our allocations. It's kind of the same thing I've said in the past couple of meetings. So we're hoping to be working on a revised biannual budget in the next few months is my hope. Related specifically to MPOs, we did publish our public transportation agency safety plans for all of our tier 2 agencies on August 11th. An email should have been sent out kind of highlighting some key points for MPOs. One is the deadline for February 7th to update all their TIPs and CLRPs with the performance measures or targets that were identified in the plan. So in the memo, there should be some template language that can be used when doing those updates. If there are any questions, you can feel free to email myself or Wood Hudson, who is the project lead for the PTAS. Given an update on the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, we are currently continuing to work on standing up the authority. As we all know, with Cbta, it takes a lot of work to build something from the ground up. Right now, we are anticipating appointments of board members to be released very soon, and the schedule for the first meeting is anticipated in the fall. The other item that we wanted to identify for you all is that we're also on track to complete agreements to finalize the CSX deal by the end of this year. This will provide framework that will allow service from Richmond to DC to double over the next decade. Next is Virginia Breeze bus lines. I think I've been mentioning about the 2 new routes, but we did start service July 24th with the Valley Flyer. And then we also started our 2 new routes August 7th, so the Piedmont Express and Capital Connector. The one in particular, the Capital Connector, is the one that connects between Richmond and DC directly. And we've seen a lot of actual ridership and tickets related to that route in particular. If you want more information, here's the link to our website, including all of our rebranding and any information on how we're doing our COVID safety protocols. Last, related to Amtrak, effective yesterday, Amtrak has decided to increase all of the state-supported rail service to about 80% of the pre-pandemic levels. This includes now 1 additional Norfolk and 1 additional Newport News daily round trip, and both will connect through Richmond. We don't anticipate any additional service through Richmond to return until about early 2021. And that is what I have for my update. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dubinsky, and what a great job counting to 20. Very impressive.
I know. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, item number, well, I'm sorry, did anyone have any questions for either of our updaters? Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Parsons.
I had a question for Tiffany, if she can unmute again. Is there a resource or a way, what's the best way for us to follow any actions on Long Bridge and kind of the bigger north-south stuff? Is that getting reports from you, or is there a website that's going to be set up, or what's the best way we can look at those kinds of things?
So I can do it one of 2 ways. One is that if there's interest from the TPO, we can you can request an update via presentation. I know that at the CTB Rail and Transit Subcommittee meetings, there have been periodic updates on Long Bridge and the CXS deal. So I can ask if there's some availability from our rail team to do that. Otherwise, I believe there may be a website. I can follow up on that, and then I can send that out to everyone.
That would be great. Thank you for that question. I'd appreciate that as well. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is our public comment period for any open comments. Ms. Mueller, have we received anything in the chat, or is there anyone on the call who would like to comment?
Madam Chair, there are no comments in the chat.
Madam Chair, this is John O'Keefe with Ride Finders. I just wanted to make a quick announcement to let all the TAC members know that Ride Finders last month won the 2020 Commuting Options Van Pool Award from the Association for Commuter Transportations.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank y'all. It's as DRPT, and I'm sure many of you are aware, van pooling is definitely looking a little different right now, but thank y'all.
To keep the theme of kids going to school going, my son is the last person to get picked up for the bus, and he was the only person on the bus this morning. So transportation is definitely different.
Oh, I miss the sound of school buses right now. That's what I miss right now, is just them passing by. It's not the same.
Come to Hanover, we got buses everywhere, just empty. Any other comments for the public open comment period? Okay, moving on. The next item are future meeting topics. And let me get to that part of my agenda package. I apologize. We've got it pulled up. Thank you, Chet. So the Cbta update, I think we're going to continue to get those. It's really exciting to see how quickly that's coming together. And I know we'll have a lot of good conversation over the next couple months. The 2020 Richmond Regional Structural Inventory Assessment Report. And that the next item is the Smart Scale update. TPO project prioritization process, just reviewing that over the next year to get ready for the fiscal year 22 review process. Connect RVA 2045 updates and bike ped plan updates. And I guess we should also add in the complete streets update, hopefully for next month. Any other items that anyone would like to add for future meeting topics? Right, not seeing anybody coming off. The next item are for TAC member comments. Does anyone else have any comments? Anything going on in your locality or in your department that you'd like to share that we haven't discussed today? We're here in Ashland. We're getting our Amtrak platform improvements. It's been going on for about a year now. We're hoping that finishes up later this year. it's not Main Street Station, but to us, it's quite exciting. And hopefully we can have a few of you all up to see it. And we're getting PIDS, the Passenger Information Display System, which is great. If you've ever gotten on the train in Ashland, you're scurrying around trying to figure out which side the train is coming. So excited to get that. Does anyone else have any updates? Barb, I see you came on. Go ahead.
Chessa Faulkner was promoted to Assistant Director for our Transportation Department. Yay!
Congratulations, Chessa.
Congratulations, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Anything else?
Madam Chair, I see Phil has posted in the comments, don't forget the Active Transportation Work Group meeting at 10:30.
Thank you for that reminder. The next meeting we have scheduled is for October 13th. Mr. Parsons, do you expect that to be virtual as well?
At this point, we do. We are, for the board or the committee's information, we are looking at possibly using a different format based on feedback we've gotten from the Cbta and other comments over the past 3 or 4 months. So we may be trying to use something that may be a little bit more user-friendly for the committee. So stay tuned, and we'll certainly provide information well in advance of the meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, it's been, what, 6 months, and we're still all trying to figure it out and learning new things each day. So I guess if we don't have any other items to review, I'll see you on October 13th, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.